This is the Audio Fit Test Podcast, where we change the game for beginners to health and fitness. No fads, no gimmicks, just solid advice that will get you results. In this episode, we talk about beginner bodybuilding, how to get started the right way, and the best mindset to adopt. Here's Jim of jimshealthandmuscle.com, a guy who started his weight training adventures by doing squats with a wooden bar.
Hi, this is Jim from jimshealthandmuscle.com, audiofittest.com, and the upcoming homeworkoutforbeginners.com. Yes, I'm finally working on the video course to accompany my Home Workout for Beginners book, and I'm really looking forward to sharing this. More than a few people have said that this would be a good idea, but it's such a big project. There's a lot of planning, writing, a lot of cost and time involved that it's pretty overwhelming to even start it. And there's also a reason I choose to do podcasts before the video, and that's that I haven't got a camera pointed at me doing podcasts, but when a camera's pointed at me I tend to pull stupid faces and ramble a lot more. But this is also something I'm working on. This is still in the early stages and I've started planning it and writing it, but I'll go into more detail in the coming months. But if you are into home workouts, you're a beginner and this is interesting to you, please feel free to sign up to the newsletter over at jimshealthandmuscle.com. Just go to the homepage, click the click here to get started button near the top of the page and grab the free quick home workout guide. You'll then get access to the mini home workout course, which you'll receive via email, and also when I have special offers and such, freebies and updates, all of the good stuff, you'll be notified and you can grab these too. So I hope this is useful to you if you decide to sign up anyway. Right, back to what I was going to talk about anyway, and that's bodybuilding. So when you hear the word bodybuilding or bodybuilder, most people will default to thinking of the stereotype huge muscle-bound guy or girl with veins popping, an awkward walk, all muscles with no brain, or an arrogant, big-headed, mirror-posing freak who's obsessed with the gym. Now, that sounds harsh, I know, but in this episode, I'm going to attempt to dispel this stereotype and make the word bodybuilding or bodybuilder appealing to anyone and everyone who has a body transformation plan, including total beginners to fitness and weight loss, because bodybuilding training and the mentality that goes with it has a lot to answer to when it comes to body transformations. Everyone can learn so much from bodybuilders and bodybuilding training. Now, I've spent a big part of my life as living as a bodybuilder, and in this time I've learned a lot about the training, diet and lifestyle, and have actually taken bodybuilding to the point where I stood on a stage covered in fake tan, wearing nothing but the smallest posing trunks in front of a few hundred people. But this bodybuilding journey is not the only path you have to walk down to call yourself a bodybuilder or see the great benefits from bodybuilding training. In my opinion, you can call yourself a bodybuilder if you choose to change the way your body looks by lifting weights and exercising in general. And guess what? This is most people who follow a workout plan. So if you're in a position of wanting to transform your body from having a higher body fat percentage than you would like, you want to tone and strengthen your muscles, you want to look good with nothing on, and you want to achieve something to be very proud of, I will always tell you that you should look to bodybuilding for the answers. When I was actively personal training and I suggested lifting weights to some of the new clients that I had, they would resist or flat out say that this is not what they wanted to do. They just wanted to lose weight. I would, however, manage to talk them round by explaining that the more lean muscle mass that they had, the more fat that they will burn, and that muscle is harder to build than they would think. So anyone thinking that they will accidentally become the Incredible Hulk is a bit off the mark. In this situation, my advice was and still is that if you train to look like the Incredible Hulk using a bodybuilding program while eating a healthy, normal, well-balanced diet and doing fat-burning cardio, you'll end up looking more like a fitness model rather than having super bulk and, turning green into a green monster. But But this outrageous, bulky monster look that is normally associated with heavyweight competitive bodybuilders is the product of serious supplementation, an incomprehensible amount of food intake every single day, and a lifetime of dedication. And as mentioned, this does not happen by accident. But if you take a sensible, logical approach, train 4 to 5 times per week for about an hour per session, and this is 4% of your day, by the way, you can earn a body that is lean, well balanced, strong and healthy. Now this to me is the benchmark of bodybuilding and what it's all about. You're building your body to be the best that it can be, and who doesn't want that? So what is a sensible, logical approach? Okay, so first things first, if you're serious about making changes to the appearance and the function of your body, meaning that you want to develop your muscle function, posture, and the way your body actually works, in my opinion, a good bodybuilding routine should be your first port of call, and you should look to bodybuilder trainers for this. Now, let me make it clear at this point that there are many different ways to approach bodybuilding, and in all fairness, this goes for fitness, exercise and diet in general, and there's more than one way to achieve a similar result, but I want to share advice based on my journey and my education. I know this works, and if I could go back to the beginning, knowing what I know now, I would 100% follow this advice, as I know it would save me certainly a few years of trial and error. When I first started out, I wanted to ignore the basics and get on to the more advanced stuff, like a lot of people do. I also wanted to start by lifting weights that were way too heavy for me. I basically wanted to run before I could walk. So the starting point when it comes to bodybuilding and body transformations is to learn a bit about weightlifting and diet, even if this is just the basic stuff. If you can do the basics well, really well, you'll be very surprised at what you can actually achieve with this. For example, bench press, rows, shoulder press and squats are all compound movements. These are basic movements, but they'll be with you for your entire resistance training career in one form or another. Now, these are the best exercise choices to start with, because a compound movement means that with each rep you perform, you'll be hitting more than one muscle group. You can lift heavier weights with these movements, and heavier weights means more development, provided your form is good, but we'll talk about form later because that's another important point. Now, these few compound movements are far more effective and efficient than starting your training with isolation exercises. Isolation exercises do have their place and they are valuable, but it's far better to favour compound movements when you're starting out. So the next thing is basic nutrition. Now, it might sound condescending to some, but if you're unsure about nutrition, you should learn to identify foods that are good foods and bad foods. You should learn which foods belong to which food groups and what nutrients come from certain foods. For example, chicken breast is high in protein and low in fat. That's no secret. Turkey breast is high in protein and low in fat, but lower in fat than chicken breast, for instance. Beef has a high protein content, but different cuts of beef vary in fat to protein content ratio. Fillet and rump steak are probably your best options for lower fat content. And again, with fish, different types of fish have different nutrients as well. A lot of them are high in protein, but some have got higher fats. But when it comes to fish, it's easier to track the macronutrients that you're eating if you go for like a white fish with lower fat. So learn a bit about protein. You should learn the difference between simple carbs and complex carbohydrates. A simple way to look at this without getting into the makeup of carbohydrates at a molecular level and turning this into a science chat is that complex carbs are carbs that are slow releasing energy, and simple carbs are carbs that are fast releasing energy. An example of complex carbohydrates is rolled oats. This is the type of carbohydrate that you should focus on in your diet. An example of a simple carbohydrate is raw sugar, and this can be found in a lot of food. Complex carbohydrates are good, simple carbohydrates are not so good. Now, if you're interested in the science behind all of this nutrition, You could research a bit about how your body deals with the food you eat and look at how your body uses hormones like insulin and glycogen and how you can use the food you eat to manipulate these hormones. But again, this is getting into the realms of biological science, and although it's not necessary to know this, it's still very useful to know. But learning the basics is all you need to get good results. That's what I'm trying to say here. So back to keeping it simple. A simple way to look at vegetables is that the darker green the vegetable is, the better it is for you. So broccoli, asparagus, runner beans, kale, all good. And this is the way I've looked at vegetables in the past, and I think it's a good guide to see how green something is compared to how good it is for you. So I'll stand by that. But this is very basic nutrition, but knowing how to identify good food that will help you with your goals and not hinder you, is all too often overlooked and misunderstood. As I've said before, nutrition is a massive subject and anyone would benefit from education in this area. There's quite a rabbit hole to go down and it can get very complicated. But again, learning and doing the basics well will put you way ahead of the game, and you'll be surprised at what you can actually achieve with this and what it can lead to. So learn the basics with lifting weights and nutrition first. The next point to understand is that any change to body composition, muscle size and strength takes time, and realistically you should be looking at working out and eating consistently for 6 months to a full year before you see any significant changes. 6 months of consistent training and correct eating can really transform your body, and even after just 4 weeks you should see and feel the benefits of your efforts. But I always advise to plan for a year in advance. This planning also helps out with the psychology of your journey too, and make no mistake, the mental struggles can be tough at times, not just in a bodybuilding program but for the whole of health and fitness, and even if you're just trying to stick to a diet. So if you have this plan ready and you're following it, you'll have smaller timescale targets within your bigger target, and this will make it easier on your mental standing too. It'll help with motivation, and you'll have accomplished smaller goals and victories on your way to your end game, if you like. I'll explain this. Okay, when it comes to planning a year of training in advance, this is known as a macro cycle. Stick with me here, it'll make sense, and as you know, I don't like to get too technical or use too much jargon, but I think this is useful info and it should help you out. So yeah, a macro cycle is a full year of planned progressive training, and within this macro cycle you'll have changes to your training. These changes will be where the progression is added or the training intensity is changed in some way in order to keep your body challenged. If you keep lifting the same weight or doing the same thing in the gym, eventually this will become less challenging to your body. If you are not challenged in a different way, your body will plateau and you'll not develop further. So to stop this happening, you break your macro cycle, your year's training plan, into something called mesocycles or mesocycles, depending on where you're from, but I use mesocycles. Now, if I were to use a macro cycle for bodybuilding, I would break it down into 4 mesocycles. This means that I would have 4 stages of progression over a year, so 4 mesocycles in a macro cycle. Now, when I started out, I didn't really care about what I'd be doing next week in the gym, let alone 12 weeks, as long as I was there lifting weights. Now, this was a big mistake because I wanted progression, and I know for a fact that most people have or have had the same approach at some point. So planning is very important, and progression with that planning is also extremely important, especially if you really want to see great results and actually transform your body. So that's planning and timescales. That's important too. The next thing I want to talk about is dedication, work ethic, and exercise form. Now, this is something that can make all the difference. If you have your basic knowledge of weightlifting and diet, and you have a good exercise plan to follow, you have to hit these sessions every time they're planned. Remember, we said that training for an hour 4 to 5 times a week is a great start, and we also said that a 1 hour training session is 4% of your day. And this is not every day, so it should be possible to get these sessions in when they're planned. Now, if you start missing these sessions, especially early on in your training, it'll become easier and easier to keep missing them. I know this because I've been there myself more than a few times. Routine is important, and to establish a routine with training and even eating the right stuff takes dedication from the start. It's always easier to break a plan and lose dedication in the first few weeks. So if you can stay dedicated, not miss a training session in the first month, you'll have an easier time going forward. I actually made another podcast episode on this. It was episode 7, and it's called The Most Efficient Fat Burning and Fitness Mindset for the Beginner. Now, in this episode, there's a highlight on work ethic that will reinforce this, so have a listen if you like. But to cut to the chase, once you're in the gym, that's the first step. You still need to make the most out of the time in these sessions. You need to get your money's worth. One of the big common mistakes is to get to the gym and go through the motions without challenging yourself. And my outlook is that if you've taken the time to get to the gym and you've used that effort, you may as well get the most out of your time you're there, or you'll be wasting your time. Now, if you really want to transform your body, and that's what I want for everyone that listens to these things or reads any of my books, you need to challenge yourself. This means that you lift weights that are heavy, you concentrate on your exercise form, you do your cardio at the correct heart rate, and you should feel that you have worked out when you've actually finished a session. You should push yourself and always challenge yourself. And the final thing I want to talk about is exercise form. Good exercise form is something that should be your priority when it comes to any type of training. If you have bad exercise form, you're opening yourself up to injury. You can be cheating yourself out of the training effect that you want. You can ruin your flexibility, and you can actually change your posture for the worse if you neglect your exercise form for long enough. Now, as we said, lifting heavy weights is important, but you need to be lifting those weights with correct form. For example, I could go to the rack of dumbbells in the gym, pick up a set of 20 kilogram dumbbells and start swinging them around to do bicep curls. If I did this, I'd be using the momentum of the weight to move it from point A to point B, and I'd be using a fraction of my biceps to do the work. And by doing bicep curls, you're actually trying to train your biceps, so I'd be cheating myself. If, on the other hand, I went to the dumbbell rack and picked up a set of 10 kilogram dumbbells and stood with my back straight, abs tight, and started repping out some bicep curls in a controlled manner, focusing on actually working my bicep muscles and only using this muscle group to move the weight, I'd get so much more benefit from this. And this is just an example of bicep curls, but it goes for every single exercise, even the form on your cardio exercises. But down the line, there are opportunities to use cheat reps, but that's advanced and it's still really controlled. So ignore that for now. When you're starting out, you just want to do the basics right. And like I keep saying throughout this episode, if you do the basics right, that's all you need to get fantastic results. So when you're training, you should always think about the muscle group that you are targeting and be conscious of your posture. Challenge yourself with the resistance levels, yes, but please always make sure you're lifting or exercising with good form or correct form. Now, you can always improve on your form, so think about it. Use the mirror, look at yourself doing the exercises and try and be critical. And that's why they have mirrors in big gyms. Not so big-headed bodybuilders can do double bicep poses and take selfies of themselves. It's to check form. So if you see someone looking at in the mirror thinking they're a poser, they're not. They're checking their form. Well, they should be anyway. But that's what the mirrors are for. So use them and be critical of yourself when it comes to exercise form. Okay, I'm going to wrap it up there, but I hope you found this useful in some way. If you did, thumbs ups, reviews, likes, follows, or whatever buttons you can press on the platform that you're listening on to this. They're always appreciated. And if you are particularly interested in this subject, I do have a book published on Amazon that covers all of this in more detail and actually lays out a full macro cycle of progressive bodybuilding training that you can directly follow. So check out my book, Jim's Weight Training and Bodybuilding Workout Plan, over on Amazon. Anyway, thanks again for listening. I really appreciate you spending this time with me, and I hope to chat to you again really soon. All the best, keep training hard and keeping your form correct. Jim, see you later.